Good morning. It's the last day of August 2022 and I'm starting this little tour here from the back of the house, trying to make sure I capture how things look this year. This is my limelight hydrangea that has been eaten by crickets or grasshoppers. You can see here that they've just gone through some of the panicles and the leaves and stuff. This one's looking pretty nice though, so I'm excited. This move really worked out well. Here is the vegetable garden. This area is generally empty. It's still kind of a work in progress. This is where we put the vegetable beds. It turned out that this spot just gets a little too much shade. The front side of the bed gets a reasonable amount of sun. The front like third, but the back 2/3, just not quite enough sun. Garden, I planted several tomatoes. I had a green tiger here. It didn't get enough sun and it just didn't do super well. I had the lemon cucumber and I had a pickling cucumber back there. Both, the pickling cucumber just didn't really taste right, and the lemon cucumber I couldn't time when to harvest. Here I have a Sweet 100 that literally I think I got like maybe 4 tomatoes off of so far this year, just not getting enough sun. Next to it is the sun sugar, done much better. I have been able to harvest enough for a small salad once every 4 or 5 days maybe. And then the last one was the sun gold, which I moved, right? So it was doing really well. I had it over here in the corner and I had a squash below, a yellow squash below it down here in a grow bag. And I thought, oh, it needs the squash needs shade. Let me just drag this forward a little. So we dragged it forward, only to realize that it had rooted through the grow bag into the ground. And when we moved it, we broke a taproot. So it has struggled ever since then, which is unfortunate. We've gotten some fruit off of it, but not a lot. Basil has done well. This is cinnamon basil. It's produced like these really pretty purple flowers, and it has kind of like a purple stem. And then regular basil over there. I didn't do a good job of trimming and it bolted, and so now this is what we have, and I just left it. The birds eat the seeds and the bees enjoy it. Behind it though is a Jimmy Nardello sweet pepper that is finally forming some peppers, and I'm super excited to get those. I had one last night, really delicious. We're talking about maybe next year putting grow bags in here and moving the agapanthus and having the vegetable garden here. This area gets tons of sun. This was a raised bed I got at Costco, and it's okay. I'm not sure. It's a self-watering raised bed. I'm not sure I would do this again. I've had trouble with, again, insects eating my seedlings, so I've had a little trouble getting things to start in here. Back here is a sunshine ligustrum. It looked nice this spring, but this fall it is not happy. It doesn't look healthy. It's sparsely leafed, I guess is the word, and lots of brown spots. A lot of leaf cutter bee action on it. It just doesn't look right. We're planning to move the fountain from over there to here, so this is probably going to come out. Probably just doesn't get enough sun here. I'm going to try and move these I think they're cypresses, this winter, and plant them in the ground because they've gotten, I think, too big for these pots now. So back here on the retaining wall I have a Jazz Hands Loropetalum on both sides. They really struggled after planting them this spring. It's looking a little better. I think it's finally gotten established. And I have 3 varieties of blueberry that have just continued to struggle with burn and other types of issues. I'm told this is burn, but not positive. I'm gonna try again, but I have not really gotten, second year, and I haven't gotten a lot of blueberries. I got like maybe a half a dozen off of the 3 plants. Just really have struggled with trying to like time the water and the everything else going on there. The climbing rose I've struggled with as well. I have really struggled with how to tie it up properly, and now I've got lots of really long canes, so I do need to kind of really figure out how to attach it to the arbor. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with a mess, and I don't want a mess. I have not done a good job of thinking about this particular bed. I have some pincushion flower, foxglove, comfrey, lemon balm, and irises in the bed, and a little bit of annual petunias and alyssum. But yeah, I need to really think more about what the yeast bed should look like. This one over here too. This is just Gara that I whacked back earlier that's now starting to flush back with new blooms, and another lemon balm right there. Up here on top, we have the Macrophylla hydrangea, which is also not done well. I mean, I got some nice blooms, but they crisped up really quickly, and now the leaves are yellow. I'm not sure if it's a water issue or if it's a pest issue. I've inspected the leaves a number of times. I've tried to wash it down a number of times. Not really sure what the deal is there. I planted those cyclamen last fall, and I thought, okay, well, we'll see if they survive. Now, I had a ring of them here. This was, I can't remember the name of the blue plant there, but I was excited to see that the cyclamen survived 110-degree summer. Just the 2 white ones, but they're real pretty and they look real nice, and they've continued to bloom all summer. Amazing. Kind of fun to see that. The foxglove rebloomed randomly. I am really surprised to see the reblooming of the foxglove. Over here I have a couple more lemon balms, and really I just have them. They've self-seeded around the yard, and they are green and lush generally, and so I just keep them. These pots, we put coreopsis and a few other plants in these guys, and they have looked really nice through most of the season. The coreopsis has gotten some sort of infection. I'm not sure, some sort of disease. The leaves are brown and crisp, and I don't know what it is though. It's not spider mites, but definitely not healthy. Both of them are not doing well. Maybe it's just the end of life, I don't know. I have my lavender, the high coat lavender. I cut it back a few months ago, and it's starting to flush back. Some of it I think gets more sun than the others now because the Amistad salvia is so big, so I'm not sure that the lavender can really stay here much longer and do well. And I think it does well in the first part of the year when the Amistad is smaller. Got a Chef's Choice rosemary, an alyssum, and some, I think, a hidcote. Heliotrope here with a rock rose Mickey, I believe, behind it. That's done pretty well. The heliotrope has done pretty well, but this spot gets a little late afternoon shade, so I think things do a little better right here. The blanket flower has also not done well this year. This plant has been super happy several years in a row, and this year it died out. It's got like some, I don't know if this has been washed out, but you can see here the muddled leaves, and I don't know what that is about either. I've tried to clear out the dead, but again, not sure what the deal is there. That brown thing you can barely see is a dahlia, and it has just never done well here. I get spider mites really bad every year, and it just never looks good. So I think I'm gonna let this go. I actually moved it from back over here, which there was one that came back anyway. I must have missed a tuber. But it also has spider mites, so I don't think dahlias are the thing for my yard, for sure. The salvia, again, kind of really took off, and I love the fairy nature of it behind the fountain. But it's kind of big. It doesn't look as lush late in the year. A lot of yellowing leaves. Again, I'm not sure if it's a water issue. I had originally had 5, and I had them all on this side as a grouping, and it looked really horrible, just too messy over here. So it's nice to have them separated, but again, not really working out. This is a Chinese pistache that we bought, planted a couple years ago. It's doing okay. It's not developing as fast as I thought it might. And it came with a stake on this side, and the grower cut all the branches off of this side of the tree. There's one branch growing on this side of the tree, and I looked hard to find a tree with something on this side. So I'm a little disappointed with the shape of the tree as well. My annuals here, some of the alyssum self-seeded, and of course it can be considered invasive, which I could see why. It definitely found its way into a few spaces that I am surprised to see it. I have the million bells here, and I have lost several over the summer. I just don't think I can keep them watered enough, maybe. They're too sensitive to the sun. This spot, this ring here, this side of the ring gets a ton of sun, especially a ton of late afternoon sun. So it has not done as well. This is the Atlas Rose, and it's doing okay. It's bloomed. I have 3 of them here, bloomed really nicely all year. It doesn't have the same scent. I moved a couple of them, and I noticed that the scent was not as strong, and they have not been as healthy as they were the first year. And so I suspect moving them stressed them out to a point. I'm hoping next year they're better. If not, I might have to replace them. Back here, I think it was like midnight salvia I planted, and I had to really chop back this one. It was not looking healthy at all, and it seems to be, kind of flushing back, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the way this grew in, especially since my space is so small. And maybe I should have had more of them. The Strexo zinnias are doing amazing. They're looking really beautiful. I tried to direct sow kind of a minimal amount, every like 6 to 8 inches. I had to direct sow twice. I lost the first set. I had to surround the area with diatomaceous earth to make sure they survived. And they are looking really nice right now, real beautiful. But it did take a long time for that to kind of come together. So up here on the retaining wall, we have a Meyer lemon. that has really struggled this year as well. The interior of the canopy defoliated during the summer, and I've never seen it do that before. The tree's got to be 30 years old. It seems to be fine on the outside, and there is new fruit on it, but it's definitely struggling. I don't know if it was a water issue. It has been suggested that the winter drought has affected the trees during the summer, and that because they don't get the heavy rains in the winter, they are not doing well in the summer. This was a fruit tree I planted just this spring. This is a cotton candy apiarium. Sorry, get my head out of the way. It has done really well, super aggressive, just blooming like crazy. We didn't get any fruit, which is perfectly fine, but excited to see what happens next year. That is a wonderful pomegranate that I was going to attempt to espalier. Then I wasn't sure if we were going to move it, so I didn't want to attach it to the grid, and now I'm not sure if it's going to stay, and I need to figure out quick before it's too late to start espaliering. Oh, Henry peach. This is its second year. It spent the first year in a pot. We got some beautiful peaches. I have struggled with the shape again. When I cut it to do the backyard orchard style, it only grew out of one side. I have the one branch on this side. I think you can notch thing to force branches, but we'll see. This stick is a Fuyu persimmon. It never established. It consistently had problems. The leaves were burning. I tried to set up a shade structure to protect it, and it just defoliated, and I think it's pretty much dead. This is my second try. The first one I put in a pot because I was too excited, and when we tried to get it out of the pot, it didn't come out. So I was like, fine, I'll buy another tree. Not happy about it. Trees were more expensive this year. But yeah, so this one has to go back and we'll try again. Here I have a artichoke. I have had this artichoke for a couple years. We did get a single artichoke this year, and I missed the pick time, so I let it bloom. And it was interesting to watch. It definitely should not be in a grow bag. Grow bag definitely doesn't do it any good. Not enough moisture, not enough space. It's too big of a plant for something like this. This is a pink satin pomegranate, I believe. Again, one I wanted to espalier and wasn't sure if I was going to move. This one doesn't get the sun in this particular spot along the fence. I thought it got a lot of sun, but it actually is. These are both in the shade at a relatively early point in the day, like say 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, so I'm not sure that they get enough sun. I did not get a single bloom this year, but again, these were well, this one was in a pot last year, put it in the ground this year, and maybe I need to check. Maybe you don't get blooms for 3 or 4 years. This one was a sleeve, I believe they're called, just this year, so it's done quite well. Down here is a little backside of the house. The crepe myrtle has done well again this year. This year I actually didn't trim back the branches, and I let it grow. And I have to say, I'm not sure that it's really any bigger than it would be normally. Maybe slightly. Behind it, I used to think it was a tea olive, but I think it's just a basic privet. They have never done really well. They defoliate. They're very weak, brittle trees or bushes. They provide a lot of shade, the west side of the house. So, you really want something strong canopy here. But yeah, if I need to replace them, it's going to be painful. And some ferns that I transplanted a while back. This is an American geranium, a hardy geranium. I think because I keep this umbrella up, I don't think it gets quite enough sun right now. It did really well in the early part of the year, before we put up the umbrella. But in order to protect the house, we put up the umbrella to keep the heat down. And I don't think that has done much for the geranium. We got the agapantha here, daylily, some sort of lily there, and then iris here. The agapantha get too much sun. They need more protection than they're getting right here. So that's a concern, trying to figure out how to do that. Same issue on the other side of the yard where we're going to put the vegetable garden. Next year we need to move the agapantha. We're going to try moving it to a spot where there's more shade. Here on this side I have Russian sage. It's the old kind that flops. It flops every year. I think it's ugly, but I've just left it until I could figure out what would do well here. I'm not sure, you know, we've talked about different shade structures, so what type of plant goes here would be dependent on what kind of sun it gets. Right now it gets afternoon sun, intense afternoon sun, because this is a west facing wall right here. So it needs to be able to handle heavy duty, you know, late afternoon. We hit 110 quite a few times, and I've checked the temperature of that wall during the heat of the day, and that wall is like 180 degrees. So the reflective heat must be ridiculous. Couple lantanas. That is Shasta daisies. Really bad place. Again, this is a south facing wall, 110 degrees, reflective heat. That corner, I checked the temperature in that corner once, and it was like 200 degrees. It was crazy. So the Shasta needs to be moved. It gets a beautiful bloom in the spring, and then it just burns the rest of the year. So I'm hoping to move that over there next to the rose. And that leads us to our raised bed here that is full of petunias and a salvia that I can't remember. The bees love the salvia. It did not get as tall as I'd hoped. I thought it was going to get super tall. Last year this bed was just from end to end petunias, and when it is in full bloom, it is just beautiful, just filled, doggies, filled with beautiful blooms. So not sure. I think, of course, salvia I believe is a perennial. I need to look at my tag. I don't remember what it was, and figure out what to do here next year. Lots of work to do, and it's a slow progress. You know, there's only so much money you have to go and buy plants or seeds, and there's only a limited amount of time you have to get them in the ground before it's too hot. So it's a slow process. Thank you for joining me for this tour through my garden, and we'll see you next time.